Two United States senators have penned a strongly worded letter to Elon Musk, of course, the head of Tesla, over a new investigation by Reuters that finds that Tesla did in fact know about defective parts in their vehicles, which were incredibly dangerous, but decided to keep their customers in the dark and even go so far as to blame their customers for the issues they were having with their cars. Now, according to the review of the Reuters investigation, the chronic failures, many in relatively new vehicles, date back at least 7 years and stretch across Tesla's model lineup and across the globe, from China to the United States to Europe, according to the records and interviews with more than 20 customers and 9 former Tesla managers or service technicians. So the investigation and the issues with the defective parts spanned between 2016 and 2022, and there are documents to prove that Tesla knew about the defective parts and decided to keep their customers in the dark. Documents include analysis and data reviews conducted by engineers focusing on parts with high failure rates, and also some memos distributed to the technicians globally. And the types of failures were in fact incredibly dangerous. It had to do with the wheels of the vehicles that were detaching from the car at high speeds, suspensions collapsing in brand new cars, and axles breaking during acceleration. This is not a small thing. It's incredibly dangerous. People can die from severe car accidents as a result of this. Now, the documented information highlights ongoing issues with low-tech suspension connections, encompassing upper and lower control arms, fore and aft links. While these parts are relatively inexpensive for Tesla and often go unnoticed by most consumers, they are important in securely connecting the car's axle and wheels to its body and steering mechanism. So the memos also, get a load of this, instructed technicians to inform consumers that broken parts on their vehicles were not faulty, revealing a significant disparity between the information available internally and what was communicated to Tesla's customer base and regulatory authorities. Also keep in mind that the company does sell directly to their customers, and they control many of its service centers, meaning that they had the most extensive knowledge in-house in regard to what was going on with the parts and how faulty they were. In instances where customers possessed out of warranty cars, the automaker charged them for part replacements despite internal knowledge among Tesla engineers that these components were either flawed or had high failure rates. Engineers even considered pursuing refunds from suppliers due to these defects. So they would literally charge the customers to replace the parts that they knew ahead of time were faulty and it was totally Tesla's fault. And then they would hit up the manufacturers who sold them the faulty parts and say, yo, what's up with the refund? We want a refund on this.
Yeah, double dipping.
Insane, but honestly not surprising. So I have more details, but Cenk, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm so curious what's going to happen to Tesla in the future, because for so long it was considered the car of the future in a way that it just dominated the car market, right? And its valuation was so high, it just defied all reason. And now there's tons of problems coming out. And now we've also seen Elon Musk run Twitter with our own eyes and seen him do a lot of questionable things. And so then you think, is he also doing that at Tesla and other companies that he runs? On the other hand, we've seen him be spectacularly successful with Starlink and some other companies. So it's a giant mystery to me. But this particular issue that Reuters is bringing up is obviously not a mystery. It's not close.
Nope.
And it makes me very concerned. My kids, they once went to go see a Tesla, and they love that there's video screens in it, right? That's the only thing they care about. And so they're putting a lot of pressure on me.
No, don't do it.
No, I'm not going to do it because I'm worried about how the car is constructed, let alone everything else, right? And here's a guy who seems to cut corners. And so now when you're cutting corners in a car, that's a different situation. So I leave it to Reuters reporting. It is pretty devastating.
So there's more. So US regulators were starting to catch on to what was going on. And according to the investigation, Tesla told US regulators that the failures were caused by driver abuse. The company also instructed service centers in a February 2019 talking points memo to use the same explanation with customers experiencing aft link failures. They were told to blame vehicle misuse, such as hitting a curb or other excessive strong impact. Like, see how much they disrespect their own customers? Like, it disgusts me. That really disgusts me. Now, I want to move on to the uselessness of the United States Senate, because 2 US senators were like, we are US senators and we could do something about this legislatively, but instead they penned a strongly worded letter to Tesla, urging Elon Musk to do a recall of the vehicles and replace the faulty parts. Citing the alarming journalistic investigation into the electric vehicle company, Senators Richard Blumenthal and Ed Markey, both Democrats, expressed extreme concern following recent reporting about Tesla's knowledge of safety flaws in its vehicles and concealment of the causes of these flaws from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. They write, "It is unacceptable that Tesla would not only attempt to shift the responsibility for the substandard quality of its vehicles to the people purchasing them, but also make that same flawed argument to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration," the pair added, calling on Musk to correct apparent false and misleading representations made to the federal agency. Look, I know that it's only 2 senators who are at least attempting to do something, so I guess they get a tiny bit of credit. But to me, this really highlights the ineffective nature of Congress these days. Their inability, and in some cases unwillingness, to do what they have been elected to do, which is to legislate, to regulate, to ensure that corporations aren't screwing over ordinary Americans who don't have the ability to peer into the internal records of these companies to make sure they're not getting screwed over.
Yeah, so look, again, I'm a little mixed on it too. First of all, they're better than the rest because at least they're doing something, right? Like the rest of Congress is apparently taking a vacation for 2 years other than to come in and do Klein House hearings to try to score political points. But number one, they know that the Democratic voters now hate Elon Musk. So it's an easy political points to score by writing a strongly worded letter to Elon Musk about one of his companies. So keeping it real on that. Most importantly, the point that Anna made, well, why don't you do something? Like if you have extreme concern, shouldn't it lead to legislation as opposed to a letter? But these days, no one does anything in Congress. Anything. But this is a bit of a layup actually, because the Democrats control the Senate. They could just introduce a bill and make the Republicans vote against it.
Good point.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then that puts them on the spot. But you want to know why they don't? Because a lot of Democratic colleagues also take money from different, car manufacturers, Tesla, whoever it might be, and they don't want to embarrass their colleagues. That's why they do useless letters. Sorry, but that's just real. Okay, but finally come back around to, but it's not totally useless because we're fair here, because at least it put a spotlight on it. And I want you to notice something that's important in this story. When Reuters did the story, not a lot of other people covered it. But when 2 senators were concerned, all of a sudden, national media coverage, okay? So then I want you to understand how the rest of the politicians do less than nothing. Because they could, at the minimum, they could write these strongly worded letters to bring spotlight to an issue. The great majority of them don't even bother doing that on things where we need their help in a desperate way. So, man, most politicians are utterly useless.
It's depressing, and that's the reason why Congress has such a low approval rating. It's really no surprise.
Thanks for watching. If you become a member, you get to watch all this ad-free, except for, of course, this ad. Still, hit the join button below.